Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
First at 5:30, if you can't get your first choice, how about your second one? Ranked voting is on the ballot. Good evening and thanks for joining us for NBC 16 News at 5:30. I'm Gold Meadows.
And I'm Alan Matthews. This November, voters will choose between ranking candidates by preference or keeping current plurality voting, where the candidate with the most votes wins regardless of margin.
One political group is voicing opposition to ranked choice voting locally and on a grander scale. Linn County Republicans is falling in line with the Republican National Committee and the Oregon Republican Party with a resolution against ranked choice voting. The Linn County Republican Central Committee says changing the current voting system will negatively impact the integrity of state elections.
It decentralizes the ability to count and actually get the results of the election. We have county-specific jurisdiction, 36 counties in Oregon, all count our votes. With a ranked choice voting election, if the individual doesn't get a majority of over 50%, the counties are going to have to surrender those ballots, commingle them with other counties in those districts, and then rely on most likely the Secretary of State to count those votes.
Right now, a candidate can win with 20 or 30% of the vote. With ranked choice, voters pick their top choice and rank the other candidates in order from second on. To win, a candidate must receive a majority of votes, but if that majority isn't reached, the candidate with the fewest amount of votes is defeated. Voters who pick that losing candidate will then have their second ranked choice on their ballot receive their vote. Oregon ranked choice voting leads the Yes on Measure 117 campaign.
What Measure 117 is really focused on doing is giving voters much more power in our elections to have our choices count. Ranked choice voting is used in over 50 jurisdictions across the United States. It gives us that power to choose our favorite candidates, right, without worrying about wasting our votes, and also have the option to identify backup candidates.
If voters vote yes, the measure would only apply to statewide and federal offices like president, U.S. senator, and governor. Phillips says fear is a driver for those against the change.
Just really wanting us to be cautious about that with around our elections, especially, which I totally respect, right? It is a change to the way we vote. And what I really want to stress is that it's a simple change.
The voters are going to wholeheartedly vote this down. Why would they vote for a system to elect people that was put before these voters by elected representatives who have excluded themselves from ranked choice voting? I think that's abhorrent and I think it's ridiculous. And I hope that the voters wise up and actually read it.
If adopted, voter education efforts will be required by the Secretary of State's office before the measure is instated in the 2028 election.
Benton County has used the ranked choice system since 2020 for local elections. Portlanders will use ranked choice voting this November to elect a mayor, city councilors, and an auditor.
Well, joining us now is University of Oregon Assistant Professor of Political Science, Chandler James. And Chandler, what are some other examples of places that have used ranked choice voting and how have voters responded?
In Alaska, ranked choice voting was used, and their most recent congressional candidate or official is elected on that basis. New York City also has a ranked choice voting system that they used for the mayor's office. And research on ranked choice voting finds that, what limited research there is on this, finds that voters tend to like the ranked choice voting in the sense that it provides more satisfactory outcomes for them. There's less negative campaigning, and they feel that the experience was generally preferable compared to plurality voting.
Do you think that has to do with that 50% plus 1% of the vote?
Well, I think that the thing to recognize about ranked choice voting is that it provides the voter, or it gives the voter the opportunity to give more information about who they want and what they want. And so with ranked choice voting, you rank people instead of just choosing one. As a consequence, voters can choose ranked candidates and potentially choose third-party candidates or candidates that may not seem like the lesser of two evils that have the best chance, which is how many people feel about the current system.
Well, how does ranked choice voting impact the power of the two major political parties? Does it hurt the minority party?
Well, what I think ranked choice voting does is it necessitates campaigns, for particularly among the two parties, to seek a broader appeal, to make broader appeals to the electorate such that they can get ranked second or third. And so what it does is it makes campaigns much more moderate in tone and potentially in policy, and it does give third parties an opportunity to solicit the favor of voters because voters aren't wasting their vote if they choose to vote third party. They can rank them second or first without fear that their vote will be wasted.
Now, could ranked choice voting impact political campaigns further?
I think so. And as I mentioned, some of the research that I've encountered on ranked choice voting finds that the campaigns were a little bit more nice relative to plurality voting. And so I suspect that if ranked choice is rolled out over a larger territory, we might expect similar results where candidates, instead of seeking passionate bases, they seek a broader appeal to try to get more people voting for them on the first or second.
You teach politics. Do your students tend to be interested or aware of what this style of voting is?
My students don't really know much about ranked choice voting, but what they're really interested in is alternatives to the two-party system. So many of them express deep dissatisfaction with having only two choices and having to pick between two of the least of two evils, as in their words. And I think that they would be interested in ranked choice voting because it would make voting for third parties a much more viable alternative.
Well, could you ever see a scenario where ranked choice voting is considered on a national stage?
Well, you know, the states are laboratories for democracy, and if it's instituted here in Oregon and it goes well, then I suspect that other states might try it, and depending on that, it might lead to more national efforts. But it takes time for things like this to proliferate, and I'm not sure if it will happen anytime soon.
I want to step away quickly from ranked choice voting. In Oregon, 300 people were registered as voters in error. Does this impact voter trust, and could it impact political violence that we've seen a little bit of?
Yeah, so voter trust in their government has been waning for years, since the 70s. And instances like this further erode the trust that is necessary for governments to function. And so I hope that this is not a widespread incident, but certainly if people hear stuff like this, then I would suspect that it would negatively affect their trust in terms of government.
Should we implement this system, what do you think it would look like for us in Oregon?
Well, I know that the Secretary of State's office has to do a mandatory voter education drive. I suspect that if it were implemented, candidates would probably have to be more moderate because they would want to get as many first, second, third place votes as possible, and using really alienating, striking language would certainly alienate a lot of people. And so I think that at least the tone of campaigns would probably become much more sober and moderate.
Well, Chandler, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.